EV movement was built on, we need to save the earth. We need to save the environment. That is not and was never the right approach.
I agree.
To make the transition. The right approach was to do it in such a way that was gradual and palatable to the economy. And what we've done and what happened was it got shoved down everybody's throats in such a way that was very political and very tribal, and you can't put that back into the box. It's already happened. I am super excited to hear about you going out to Mercedes, mainly because of the story you have to tell and my affinity for the honestly quite legendary W126. Now, I will be the first one to say that I don't think this is tough. And I think you're not going to like this.
I feel like we're about to be in a fight.
I don't think the W126 is a very good looking car.
Well, you're dumb.
And here's the reason. But I've grown up. Okay, I used to not think the W126 was a good looking car. But I've grown up. And I like it a little bit more now. But when I was younger and I had one, I was always disappointed it wasn't something that I could lower and put wheels on.
Well, that's because you have bad taste and you think everything needs to be lowered and be ruined.
Everything does need to be lowered.
By the way, there's some sick wheels for that car with like 5-spoke deep dishes. AMG had some really cool three pieces.
Yeah.
There are cool wheels for that. The Pentas fit on that. There are cool wheels on that car.
I've gotten older and I've come around. Like getting a fatty tire on an old AMG Penta on that thing and getting some AMG springs on it.
You can't go too wide though, because otherwise it ruins the way it rides and handles, because that car wasn't developed for really wide wheels. Like you get some thick rubber on there, and I don't mean thick. I mean thick. It doesn't ride and handle right when you go around a corner. Like my grandparents, those were narrow tires, dude. They were not wide. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We are. Hey, Mr. Producer, are you able to share anything, or were you trying to share anything? I'm curious if that actually works. I almost kind of want to start over because we've had beeping and the. Yeah. Oh yeah. There it is. That's okay. So that's a W126.
Yeah, but that's a Euro car. It's got the side, and it's got the small bumpers and it's got the clean headlight. That's a Euro.
So the 1984 W126 came with those headlights. So we got those headlights in 1984, and that's what mine was. I had a 380 SE, which is kind of like the
3.8 inline six.
No, it was a V8. It's a small block. It's a V8. It's like a very small V8.
Oh, right. Because all the threes, there were three. There was a 3.5. That's what we had.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yes. So that was my experience with one of those. Was always kind of wondering why I couldn't lower it and put wheels on it. I've grown up since. I had one of those in 2002, and actually still had it when I met Jessie, my wife, and drove around in the thing. But it was the car that I used to drive back from college in San Francisco. So my grandpa
that's a great road trip car though, right?
It was. It survived.
Solid.
Okay. Imagine this. We've already been driving across the country. And I've told the other story a couple of times, so I don't need to get into, my axle broke in Yosemite in that car, and it ended up getting fixed by the guys that fix bulldozers at Yosemite National Park. We ended up staying in like an emergency camp spot. It was pretty cool. Anyway, so Grandpa and I are driving from, I think, Denver to Milwaukee, and we're probably 15 hours in. We're both very tired. Grandpa's driving, and if there's any testament to what these cars can stand, he drove over a dead deer that was laying in the middle of the road at 70 miles an hour. And did absolutely no damage whatsoever to the car. The whole suspension just took it. It absolutely just took it. And then we pulled over and ended up sleeping in a rest stop at that point, because we were both like, okay, maybe we should stop driving. But those things are absolutely great. What's your experience with those things?
Grew up with it. My grandfather owned one. That was his last car. Then when he died, my grandmother took it. It was literally from the time I was 2, there is the time that I was 2 until it would have been 2001. So it would have been 17. So it was
always there. It was always there.
It's from the time I can remember until until my grandmother's last car. We had that car, and it's, dude, countless memories. I mean, right? There I am. That's me. That's me.
That's me. That's where the car washing obsession started.
That was 96. I was 10 years old in that photo.
You look exactly the same.
Shut up. I had more hair. But those jorts are pretty sick, though, right? Those are Airwalk shoes, by the way. Those are Airwalk tennis shoes.
Yeah. We used to be cool.
We used to be cool.
So this car looks like it has the American headlights and stuff like that.
It has the American headlights, American bumpers, but it was American only spec. So that car, Europe didn't get that car. That was a one-time thing that America got a cool car that Europe didn't get. So that was a 350 SDL, 3.5 liter turbo diesel, long wheelbase.
The long boy.
Yeah. Huge backseat, dude. Long car. So my grandparents, you have to understand. So my family historically went from Mopar. So they used to drive Imperials. My grandparents had 2 matching Imperial sedans. My dad grew up driving the longest car in history ever made that was like a production car. So they grew up driving, that's sick. They grew up driving Imperials, and then they moved to German, so Audi, Mercedes. And when their kids came of age, they were in Datsun, Nissan. And then their kids moved from Datsun, Nissan to Audi. They joined with the Audis. And then as grandparents aged and died and Germans changed, splintering started to happen, right? We started with Japanese with Lexus and all that stuff, and Toyota and Nissan, and then currently life comes around, dude. Life circles around now. We're back to Germany.
What do you think the impetus is for a lot of families leaving, like going from a Chrysler Imperial and ending up later on ending up with
what happened when the Imperials left the rear wheel drive big body form to be K car and front wheel drive and smaller bodies. That's literally. I mean, that's literally what the emphasis, the metamorphosis of our family of leaving American metal was. But now we're back. Like my dad and my wife both drive. We're back to Mopar. My dad and my wife both drive WK2s. And we're looking at Audis again.
What's a WK2? I don't even know what that is.
Last generation Grand Cherokee, the reskinned ML.
Okay.
With a 5.7 Hemi. The most reliable Mercedes GLE you can get.
Sure. So why not still Mercedes?
Well, my grandparents are dead, right? So and her last car was an Audi, so it was also German metal. My mother, I actually would tell you almost, it's an interesting generational thing to watch generations. That's my grandmother's last car. That's her Audi A6. My wife drove that after she died. We had that car when you and I met. It's a generational thing. My mother will tell you, and it's all in her head, by the way, right? She'll tell you that if you drive a car with a Mercedes badge, you're rich. And we're not rich. So we can't drive a Mercedes badge. And I explained to my mother in no uncertain terms, you're no less rich if you drive an Audi. And while Lexus might not hold the same cachet because it doesn't have the same historical references as Audi, BMW, and Mercedes, poor people don't drive Lexus vehicles either. So like, I've tried to explain to my mother that like luxury cars are luxury cars. If it costs $60,000, it doesn't matter what's on the front end of the car. But there's that stigma that she grew up with, of course, right? Now her parents drove Lincolns and Buicks, and so and then she married into a family who, you know, they drove Imperials and Chryslers, and then they moved into German metal when there was a metamorphosis over in the American thing. So they're also probably something to how people grow up, I guess. My father would agree with me, and he would tell you that, you know, the difference between a Mercedes and an Audi badge, if it costs $60,000, it costs $60,000. If it costs $40,000, it costs $40,000, right? Like, but then again, you know, people of our generation, right? My kids will tell you there's no difference between a Kia and a Hyundai or a Honda. But people like you and me that grew up, we remember when Hyundai and Kia were not what they are today.
Right.
And so if you know, a lot of people I know, we're like, oh, I can't drive a Hyundai. It costs the same as a Honda. But I can't drive a Hyundai, or I can't drive a Kia. So there is something, and it's a generational thing, right? Our generation would not see a difference between an Audi and Mercedes.
I guess that's just a testament to how long it takes for an automotive manufacturer
decades,
to reinvent itself.
Yep.
Yeah. So what did so you flew out to do this Mercedes stuff. What were you going? What were you doing?
Yeah. So what I was going there to do and what I ended up doing and then what it turned into are three different things.
FCP Euro is an online retailer of OE, OEM, genuine aftermarket, and performance parts for European cars. From BMW to Porsche, Volvo, and more, their catalog is a one-stop shop with over 275,000 unique products, including expert-assembled kits to make shopping simpler. Actively building out their Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche catalogs, from current to our favorite classics, including the Mark I Scirocco free-ride car, they are working to have every part you need for all of your cars. Plus, every product they sell is backed by a lifetime replacement guarantee, even wear items like wiper blades, brake pads, and oil filters. With the opening of their distribution center in Mesa, Arizona, FCP Euro is now shipping parts from both coasts, serving most of the country in 3 days or less with their free shipping option. We at Overcrest have been working with FCP Euro for years and can vouch for them. They're real people who are passionate about what they do and the cars we love, while making sure to put you, the customer, first. Check them out today at fcpeuro.com and take advantage of free shipping on any order over $49. Looking for the best app for navigating your next adventure? Look no further than onX Offroad. With over 750,000 miles of trails and comprehensive online maps, you can explore without worrying about cell service. The app features trail ratings, detailed information, and a discover tool to help you find trails near you. onX Offroad also includes public and private land boundaries, so you'll know always where you can legally off-road and camp. Plan trips with ease using their route builder and share your adventure with friends. With features like route tracking, waypoint marking, and real-time updates, you're equipped for any challenge. Start your next adventure with confidence. Try onX Offroad free for 7 days. Download the app and start exploring today.
So the invite came in for us. The main appeal was supposed to be a prototype ride in a CLA EV, next-gen CLA EV, right? And I had been to Stuttgart a couple of weeks before that. I went to the factory the development center, sorry. And we looked at future product, future technology, and we talked to the team about CLA EV next-gen efficiency. And that's where we learned about their in-house developed motors and inverters and all this other stuff, right? And then I was coming back from the LA Auto Show on a plane, and we got an invite to go to do a prototype ride in the car in Austrian Alps. And that is not our site, just so you know. That was really funny. So, but I like those guys too. They're fine. So my boss, Marty, editorial director, messaged me while I was on the plane. Are you up for another Euro run? And because everyone else was busy, right? And it wasn't my turn. Because, he doesn't want to burn everyone out. And I'm like, what are we doing? Whatever. And he's like, go. He's like, ride in the car, ride a car thing. You're going to go to I don't know. Do you know what manufacturer is? Their customization division.
Yeah.
So they were opening a manufacturer studio. They're expanding the thing so you can get more involved for what you're paying for. So you can have experiential thing along with if you want, you can have experience when you're buying the car.
Okay.
You can be more involved in it. It honestly, it's kind of cool. It was
but like, just, I don't know.
It's kind of like the Euro delivery thing, right? If you want an experience and be part of it, you're spending this kind of money, it's cool, right? So,
well, this is the prototype, Mr.
That
Producer.
was the concept car. I can link to you the prototype.
Nah, don't worry about it. Okay, it's all good.
So anyway, it's going to look very similar to that. So, and also part of the invite was to go to the manufacturer studio they're opening, and then they said we're going to have a Sprinter van.
So is this a place where you walk in and they hand you coffee right away and they're telling you how amazing and rich you are?
No. Think of it like if you buy a Bentley or a Rolls, you go to a studio. Usually you spec your car, right?
Yep.
So manufacturer, you can choose leathers and the trims and the paint and the lining and all this cool stuff, right? And
the stuff that you would normally just do at the dealer, because they would just hand you a book and you would just look thugh the book and pick your stuff.
Yeah, but this is customization. You can you got enough money that there's no end, right? Yeah. You have enough money, you can do whatever.
This stuff isn't going into a CLA, right? You're not getting this level of customization.
It's S-Class, GLS,
yeah,
MyBox,
exactly.
Anything with S on it and above. You're in the deep six-figure figures to run this. So they're opening a studio where the cars are being finished So like that's where they're placing certain bits into it, and they're doing laser etching of the badge that goes on it. By the way, that's my signature. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
And so so now if you want to, you can go to this place in Germany, spec your car, then you can literally watch them. You can do your signature on the thing, and you can watch it etch it, and you can watch them placing the trim into the car as part of an experience. It's cool. It's cool. If you spend that kind of money and you want to be part of it, it's cool. So they were like, come, and they were opening it. So they're like, you're going to be here. So you can come to the opening, and instead of us just handing you press photos, you're already over here. And then the last bit of the invite was, if you want to, it's an option. You know, Mercedes Sprinter vans, they got an update for 2024, and they said, you know, upfitting them with third parties to do camper van conversions and all that stuff is part of this culture. And
a little behind the curve on that, yeah. I mean, they've been doing it for years. It's just that the van got an update for this year. The van itself was refreshed. And so they said, we'll have some Euro spec camper vans on hand if you want to sleep in one and experience it, because they don't have like a fleet of these things around the US for us to do in media. They're like, you know, we're going to the Austrian Alps. You want to sleep in the Austrian Alps in one of these things for a night? We'll let you. No problem. And of course, my boss and I are like, that's sick, right? Yeah, there's the van I slept in. And then I drove it the next morning. This is sick. So so those are the three things. And then in a footnote in there, they said, by the way, we're going to drive from Stuttgart to Austrian Alps in an E53 hybrid. It's a plug-in hybrid. It's the baby AMG, the 53, not the 63. And at the time, it was kind of a write-off. Didn't realize it. But as I'm there, I'm realizing it was the global launch. And I didn't know that. So originally I went there, Marty said, I want you to sleep in the van and write a story. I want you to ride in the CLA, write a story. And I want you to go to the manufacturer's studio, write a story. 3 stories, right? That toilet's nicer than my toilet.
The whole thing's nice. And so then I got there and I quickly realized it's the global launch of the E53 hybrid. So I'm like, well, I'm the senior producer for 3 sites, the Car Connection, Motor Authority, and Green Car Reports, sister sites for Motor Authority. So I'm like, well, now I'm going to write 2 first drives, one focusing on efficiency and one focusing on performance for the E53 hybrid. So now there's 2 more stories. And so now I'm at the 5 stories for my original 3. And then we're there, and I don't remember what the 6th story was, but as we're walking, so I slept in the van. We did the manufacturer studio. We drove the E53s from Stuttgart to Austria, and then I slept in the van. And then the next morning, we were going to ride in the CLA EV prototype. And we're at this ski chalet, whatever thing, like just that's where we were.
Hold on a second. You're in this van. Are you imagining like 67-year-old Feder in one of these vans with your bride, like driving around the essays?
Context. This was the second week of December. There was a week after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
You know what Krampus is?
Yeah. It's like the Christmas monster guy.
I did not know this was a thing. So we're driving. So we left Stuttgart at like 2, 1. We got to the Alps 6 p.m. We're driving through the Alps town, and these little kids, keep in mind, Jewish Feder doesn't know what Christmas is. These Christian kids are walking through the streets with masks, with tongues hanging out of their mouths. These are kids. They're shorter than my kids. And I'm like, I looked at the journalist next to me in the car. I'm like, where are we? And what is happening? And she's like, this is Krampus. I'm like, what is Krampus? And she explains this to me. Dude, they're like devil heads. And so now we all go to bed, and the Mercedes PR people are like, don't worry, we're pretty high altitude. I don't think they'll come up to the mountain and knock on your door. I'm like, what?
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm like, locking these doors. Like, I'm on the side of a mountain in a blizzard. I'm like, someone might knock on my door in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah, it was snowing like crazy, right? I woke
up, it was total whiteout conditions. And also for dinner, we were at a ski place, right? And there's a little restaurant hut on the top of the mountain. So they said, we're going to take you up to the way up top of the mountain thing, and we're going to ride in the snowcats. All of us think we're riding in snowcats. Now, I've done this before with Mazda, where they dragged us in a sleigh behind the snowcat. No. The snowcats literally put the things up, and they picked up these wooden buckets that were made of plywood around the thing. And they're like, all right, everyone step into the bucket. And Tim Stevens and I get in the bucket and look at each other like, this feels really unsafe. And Tim's like, this is probably the sketchiest thing I've ever done as a journalist. I'm like, maybe not the sketchiest, but there you go. That's
God.
Dude, then they're kids. They're kids wearing these things.
Krampus.
This was terrifying. We're driving through the dark in the Alps, still seeing this on the streets. Anyway, It was very sketch. And like, I was posting videos to Instagram. I'm like, and then when we got to the top of the mountain, they turned slowly and we were like hanging over the side of the mountain in the bucket. I'm like, super duper not safe right now. Like, this is not. Anyway, so the van thing was awesome. But the van thing, they were like, okay, so the heaters work really well. I'm like, cool. So everything's in Celsius. I'm in Europe. So I like Google, like, what's 67 degrees in Celsius? And it was like 18 or 19 or whatever degrees, right? So I turn it down when I go to bed and I crawl into bed. I woke up at like 1 a.m, just dripping in sweat. I'm like, it was like a hot box there. I'm like, why is it so hot? I turned it down to 67. So I like stumble down the stairs through the galley and I wake up the little touchscreen thing and I'm like, nope, it's still set to what I set it to. And I'm like, it is so hot in here. So it was cold outside. It was like 20 degrees. The wind's whipping around. So like I turned it down to like 10 or 12 or 15 Celsius. Like I turned it down and I went back to bed. I'm like, it's 1 a.m, like whatever. And yeah, it was a cool experience. Then you wake up, you take the blinds on the front of the window. That's it. Yeah, that's when I went to bed. I took that when I went to bed. It was not that when I woke up. Too hot. And then so I woke up and I took the blinds on the windshield and went, and I couldn't see anything because it was all just white, just snow all over the windshield. And I'm like sipping there.
Just waiting for Krampus to come out of the fog.
Yeah, and I had a mocha pot, and I wrote about this in my story. There was a mocha pot in there. I'm like, I'm making coffee. Like I'm not doing this. It was 5 a.m, by the way. I got up at 5 a.m. to work, so I sat at a little table and worked, right? And so we had best car to buy stuff coming up, which we'll talk about. And so then the mocha pot, the pot thing was smaller than the grill. Yeah, so it was gonna fall through, and I'm like, I'm not making no coffee, so I just took a little pot thing, and I'm like, this is how I'm making my mocha pot. So then I made coffee, and I sat in my little thing. Yeah, by the way, in that picture, you can see the blinds are still pulled on the doors because then they're little accordion blinds, right? And they just clip down. It was a really cool experience. So anyway, we there you go. That was a little accordion blinds. That's where I worked. Yeah, there you go. And a lot of best car to buy content was written at that little table.
You can sell everything, Feder. Sell everything. Get one of these.
Dude, I was like having these visions of like Karen and I, who would super duper not be down with this idea. Like living in this in the winter and then the summer we're at the lake, she would not be down with this. This is cool. It was cool. So I leave this thing and I walk through what is now a blizzard, full on blizzard. They shut down the road in the mountain eventually.
How are you dressed?
Hang on, Steve Ewing at Edmunds apparently talked to, I think it was Marty, my editorial director boss, because during an edit call the next week, Marty was like, so Steve told me you were the only journalist on that trip properly dressed and prepared for those conditions. And I'm like, I'm from Minnesota. I had Sorel waterproof boots that looked nice, like I could wear with a sport coat. I had my Columbia coat that has 500 or 700 downfill in it. I had a winter hat on. And I had my leather insulated gloves that are like, like work gloves, like the that are waxed. I had those. So they're not thick, so I could still grab a steering wheel if I wanted to. I never even wore the gloves. Everyone else is like in snow pants and like trudging around. And I'm like looking at a bottle of snowman. I'm like, guys, it's like 20 degrees. The windshield's probably taking it down to 10. It's not that bad.
Not that bad.
They're all like,
well, everybody, I've seen, you head out to California, it gets down to 50 degrees and people are in parkas.
Well, by the way, Steve Ewing lives at Edmunds and Daniel Golson, Jalopnik. These guys live in LA. Like they're cold. Yeah. Although both those guys are from Detroit, by the way. So like, but they get soft. So we're walking up to the chalet to go see the CLA EV prototypes. They had 2 of them, camoed up, and I stopped in my tracks. Like they like hard parked at the chalet was this W126, 1988 W126, 300 SEL, SE, not L. And it had that one, and but like I walked up and it first thing I noticed is it's got the ski rack on the roof. I'm like, this is cool.
That is an image right there.
And then the rear tires, all 4 tires are winter tires. My man. And then the rear's got winter chains on them. I'm like, this is. I'm like my heart, and I'm sure it was like a split second that I stopped in my tracks, but like it felt like I was there for a minute. And one of the Mercedes handlers was like, "You okay? Everything okay?" Because remember, most of these people are not okay with the weather. And I'm like, yeah. Like this car, it just takes me back to another place in time, right? But like I wasn't there for this. Like this is not. So it's just like get out, come on, focus, Feder, right? Like
why did they have this car there? Why did they have it there?
The official line or what I think?
Both.
The official line was, Mercedes Classic thought that it was a cool period correct thing to have at an event. and so they brought it out, is what I was told. I think this event, after the fact, it was very clear that there was other waves, and I think other waves had some influences in it. B, my wave definitely from other countries, not the U.S. The U.S. had 5 journalists. There's 5 of us, and we were all journalists, like real, like Motor Trend and Newsweek, like real journalists. Other countries had waves that overlapped ours. So I saw journalists or people with Mercedes from other countries during my time there that day. There was no question 1 or 2 were one was a set of brothers that were very clearly influencers. Probably have a huge Instagram following of like 10 million or whatever, right? And that's fine. They were doing a V12 S63 and they were just doing drive-bys. They were just flying and doing donuts and shitties and whatever. And they were doing it while I was taking photos of this car. I started getting a little nervous. I'm like, I don't know your driving skills. We are in like seriously bad conditions. You do something wrong, you're gonna slam into me in this car on the side of this mountain, right? Like I started like getting a little uneasy about what was going on with them. So I think that car was there because Mercedes Classic would die to have that hit one of those things, right? Like whatever. And then later there was and I can send I could send it to you, but like so later there was a video on Christmas posted from Mercedes and Mercedes Classic and all their accounts of a new EQG, the electric G, and that car wrapped in Christmas lights driving down that Austrian road that we were driving in, and it was like a Christmas video. And so I also think they're like, we're doing this event, we can get some marketing material out of it, like one shot. We're paying for all these things to be there. Let's get it all done at once. And of course,
do those cars even relate at all? Those cars even relate with each other at all? Can you draw a line? You know, they're so far apart.
They relate in the way they're both flagships for the brand.
That's not relative at all.
I mean, that W126 was a flagship at the time, and the EQG is seen by many rich people as that and the S-Class as the flagships of the brand. So,
I understand. I have trouble with Mercedes as a brand now. I don't feel like it's not the same, but I feel like there's very little.
That's the car. Here you go. And dude, the amount of people that DM me this video.
Oh, I'm sure.
When it went live, and they're like, is that the car you drove? I'm like, that's 100% the car I drove. And it's the road I drove on before they shut it down in the blizzard.
Where's the DNA? Where's the DNA of that car today?
Winter is, for better or worse, right around the corner. And if you live anywhere where snow and ice are a concern, you better start thinking about your tires. Nokian Tires literally invented the winter tire, and this year they're celebrating the 90th anniversary of that invention. Their flagship Hakkapeliitta tires are engineered with cutting-edge technology, honed on the world's toughest test tracks north of the Arctic Circle in the most extreme of conditions. Advanced innovations, such as the cutting-edge Aramid sidewalls made from the same fibers used in bulletproof vests, deliver extreme durability and come with a pothole protection warranty. If a road hazard damages your tire beyond repair, Nokian will replace it for free. In addition, Nokian offers a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, driving them for a month. And if you're not convinced, you can return your tires for a full refund. Learn more and find your set of studded or non-studded winter tires. Visit nokiantires.com/winterlegend. Check. Petrobox is a monthly service made specifically for the automotive enthusiast. Each month, they carefully select items including tools, detailing supplies, apparel, garage gear, stickers, and publications to be sent right to your doorstep. It's a curated selection of the latest and greatest gear in the industry. And there's actually 2 different levels of subscription to choose from. The Petrobox Basic costs less than $20 a month, while the Petrobox Premium gets you even more gear for $39.95 a month. Check them out at mypetrolbox.com and be sure to use the code Overcrest at checkout to get $6 off your first month.
Actually, I wrote about that in that story. So before I drove this, the W126, I drove the modern plug-in S-Class that day. And there is like distinct lineage lines, right? Like the way the dashboard is designed, and it's so tucked up by the windshield, the long front over, the short front overhangs, the long, like there is that's the video, by the way. There is definite distinct lineage. When I get into both those cars, you can tell that an S-Class has a blueprint And it doesn't matter if it's in the 80s or the 2010s or the 2020s. You draw from the blueprint. That's where you start. You can tell. A lot more electronics, obviously, in the modern one.
That, you know, I in my brain can't draw the line. You know, I've driven a lot of W126s.
I also think you asked like the EQG in that W126, right? I think one of the things that Mercedes flagship, or even just in general, but like a Mercedes is an over-engineered piece of machinery. Like it's to be, I have a strong reverence and respect for the engineering that goes behind some of this stuff. The over-engineering in that EQG, the electric G class, or even that W126 for the era. I mean, they handed me the key and it was a laser cut key. It was 1988. This is like, it's a laser cut key. What the heck? The pneumatic lock system. I mean, that car had ABS, by the way. Like, this is a modern G.
Yeah, but these are huge leaps forward at the time. That was massive. The things you're talking were like unheard of and just massive. Are we still getting leaps like that with this new stuff?
You know, I think so. So I'll tell you, I do think so. I think that it's different. So, and we can get into this later because I know there's a question from the Discord about electric cars and all this sort of stuff. But for like, let's use the EQG as an example, right? But like even for stop like that. So when I was in that Stuttgart trip for the CLA 2 weeks before this trip, they showed us some future tech, and I was able to write about it, so I can talk about it. It's actually live. They showed us paint that has solar stuff built in, solar panels that are built into the paint that would be like painted on to the car.
That's completely useless.
It is not a useless thing.
How many watts does that generate?
So you have to read my story. Hang on, you have to read my story because this is like
there's no way. Ago. It doesn't matter.
It actually makes it so the average electric car wouldn't have to be charged very often in like somewhere like LA. Like there was numbers behind this on because the current solar panels can only go on like a roof or whatever. Because paint, it can go on the hood, the fender. It literally goes on the whole thing. It absorbs it whenever the sun is shining. They also showed us some really cool stuff. The two other really cool things, at least for me, is nerd out.
The other things you're talking about when we were talking about this W126 affect the driving experience. Adding ABS
that's what I was about to get to.
So, but like this solar thing is
that's efficiency. The two things that are really cool for the driving experience are one, it's called InDrive. So it's an electric, and they showed us a working prototype, which was really cool. They're testing them now on prototype cars. InDrive is an electric motor that it takes the motor. So right now, brake systems are in the wheels, right? So you have this mass at all four corners. Mm-hmm. You want mass in the center of a vehicle, right? And now as we're adding batteries, you're adding a lot of mass. Granted, it's in the center, not in the front or back, but in the center, low, to a vehicle. And so relocating as much mass as possible to the center is key. They have InDrive, which they developed, and it's a brake that is integrated into the electric motor housing, not the actual electric motor, to be clear. Because basically you use your friction brakes on an electric car, maybe 20% of the time it's super efficient or less, right? So you don't need these four massive brakes in an electric car sitting at all four corners because you're using regenerative braking. It's not that you're not braking, you're using regen and you're putting it back in the pack, right? For like 80% of the time. So basically they have a brake, and instead of having a brake that has a little pad for the big disc, they have a disc that's smaller, but then the pad goes the entire part
like
of the disc.
Like a clutch disc, almost.
Yeah, dude, look 100% like a clutch disc, 100%. Yeah. And then it's liquid cooled, so it's constantly cooled, and it's on the side of the electric motor. So if the electric motor is here, it's right here, and you can do one in the front and the back, and it's called InDrive. And now you've taken all that weight on all four corners, and you made this little itty-bitty thing. It was literally the size of
I would like to point out that prior to all of this EV stuff, we didn't have any of this weight on the corners either.
We did have brakes on all four corners. What are you talking about?
I thought you were talking about like you're talking about regenerative braking systems, right? Is that what this is for?
No, this is an actual brake. Because what they were saying,
so like an old Formula One, like the inboard brake disc, where it's like next to the transmission,
in the same housing. Yes, because it can be smaller. You don't need all four brakes because on an electric car, if it's super efficient, you're using regenerative braking like 80% of the time. You're only using real friction braking like 20% of the time.
Yeah.
You don't need the capacity. So that was cool. And the other thing was really cool, and this is really going to geek you out. I'm going to get the name wrong. I don't remember. So right now is parallel or series, right? Battery technology. So they were showing us new technology that instead of all being series or parallel, you could mix it. And so basically they were showing us how they had different types of batteries, the chemistries and shapes and types. You could do like nickel metal hydride, or you could do LFP, or you could do you could even do solid state batteries, so different types of batteries for different things. This would really play in for like an AMG, right? So you could have a small solid state battery, but then you could have other batteries for like different types of uses, and the car can instantly turn on and off because they'd be wired differently versus parallel versus series.
It'll transition from series and parallel live just all the time. It can do it whatever it wants.
And I watched it happen. It was with these little microconductors. This is straight Formula One tech, right? Because you're engaging the battery with everything, and then you're disengaging the battery. So how
are the consumers supposed to care about this? Like what? Like where is the?
I'll translate it in really simple. No one's going to care about everything I just said. What it translates to is today everyone's worried about. Let's take a AMG, like a performance car. How's the battery temp thermals going to do? How are you going to get that much energy out of a battery pack or into a battery pack really rapidly on a racetrack? Like we're talking AMG stuff, right? And if you had a small auxiliary pack portion of the pack that was solid state that you could dump a ton of energy into or out of rapidly without it heating up, really, a couple of these are really expensive, right? And you could just switch off that, because you don't need that when you're cruising on the highway. Mm-hmm. Right? So if you had a portion of the pack that's LFP, a portion of the pack that's NMC, a portion of the pack that is solid state, you could mix and match a battery pack for the different types of conditions, and then tap that portion of it when you need that kind of power or output or range or efficiency. It's cool stuff.
This all sounds to me like we're still in a transition period from where we were to where we want to be. So why would anybody buy this stuff? It just seems like I'll just wait.
I would say this is super duper not transition like Betamax. This isn't. I mean, look, the first Teslas, not the Roadster to be clear, that was like a kit car. The first Model S's were over a decade old. Batteries are holding up way better than anyone anticipated. I mean, battery packs will last in 250,000 miles. Electric motors are less than 250,000, 500,000 miles. Like there's.
I would think an electric motor would last. Dang, I mean. Brushless motors.
Tesla originally was one of the first ones out the gate. So like the original screens weren't automotive grade because no one wanted to do business with them. They were terrified. So the original screens are like bleeding and all this other stuff. Rivian, Lucid, you're not going to have these kind of issues because it's proven out, right? These are automotive grade components now. Original Teslas didn't have automotive grade screens in them. No one thought that they exist. No one was willing to do it. So the grade screen you get in a Tesla today is not the same as the original Model S, even if you buy a Model S today. Different type of screen. And so that's a key thing to note. I've seen Model S's with the bleeding screen. It looks like it's melting. It's awful.
My point though is that I feel like consumers are still like, why would I, if everything is moving so rapidly and these advancements are happening.
Define rapid.
It would take, if you look at the advancement of automotive technology over like, let's say the 20th century. Right. All the things that happened was very, very slow. Like it was, fuel injection came out, ABS, seatbelts, all these different things. It was very
about
like
a decade for each thing, by the way. So
trudging.
Like, it was like so ABS came out in the ABS and the airbags were about 90. Let's just say for mainstream stuff. About 2000 is when high-end cars, Audis, got ESP.
Yeah, but it was like very trudging technology. Everything kind of like stacked on the technology that came before.
Let's just go with a decade. Let's just average it to a decade, okay? So like ESC is the last modern, oh my God, safety device, in my opinion. Yep. And my mom's A6, one of the first cars from Germany to have it in 2001. I'm sure someone's going to say in 1999, a Mercedes had it. But let's just average 2000, okay? My dad's Audi in 2000 didn't. My mom's 2001 A6 had it. So like that was the year for Audi, was 2001. 90 is when airbags and ABS really started kicking in mainstream, right? So like our 90Z doesn't have it, but then 2 years later for an airbag for a driver, but in 1991 or 92 got it, right? So that's where. So I'm gonna just use Nissan there, right? So think of it this way: first Rivian came off the line at the N21. Let's just call it 22, right? I think solid state batteries, which will be like the next iteration of a battery tech that like you or I could buy. I think because they're in early production in Nissan and Honda and all these companies right now for beta testing. So I think when you're going to first see it for someone like you and I can buy, even in a luxury car, in a full pack, I'm not talking like a little itty bitty part of the pack. let's just call it 2030. Could be 2029, 2028, but let's call it 2030, okay? Like where you and I could buy this stuff. 2030.
This seems like it's all happening within like 10 years, though.
But that's a decade. I just told you from ESC.
I know that, but think of
it's a decade. That's a decade.
Think of
the
like,
average car on the road today is 11 and a half years old. That's a decade.
Let's talk about in terms of what matters most is like the computer of a car. Okay, so let's go all the way back to the 70s. We're looking at early 70s when Bosch started coming out with like the Jetronic type of stuff. CIS came out with a particular kind of fuel injection. I think Chrysler did something too. But from that period, from the 70s, then you had in the 80s, you had a little bit more advancement of this type of technology with fuel injection, but it was still kind of stupid. It was still kind of like MFI. And then there was like vacuum-based, computers. Like Honda had some crazy vacuum stuff that they used to control carburetors. And then in the early 90s, we got OBD1. OBD1 came out. Holy shit, we can scan cars. This is great. We can use computers. And then OBD2 came out. And then all of a sudden we have things like in the early 2000s where like CAN bus starts like coming around. This is like 30 years of advancement of fuel injection technology. 30 years.
Yep.
Everything that's happening now is happening like, holy shit, there's a new thing. Holy shit, there's a new thing. Oh my God, there's another new thing.
Yes.
It seems like it's just happening very, very fast. I don't think consumers can even keep track of what's happening.
But you got to understand, you hang on, you're not a normal consumer. You're not a normal person. Neither am I. The average consumer.
And even I'm not a normal consumer. And even I am like, geez, I can't even keep track.
But you have to understand the average consumer doesn't pay attention to stuff. The average consumer, the average car on the road today is 11 and a half years old. 11 and a half is the average car on the road today. The average transaction price of a regular car is $46,000. The average transaction price of a pickup truck is $66,000.
Too much money.
When you talk about broad strokes, the guy that bought an original Model S is probably now looking at a new car. The difference between his car and the technology in a modern Model S, maybe it goes 100 miles further. Maybe it's this much more efficient. But like the technology and the screen and all that, not that different, aside from the whole bleeding thing in his car. What it can do with the iOS app, not that different.
Yeah, but you're talking about Tesla, who's been limping along their technology for years. I don't think that's a fair brand to use.
Let's talk about what do you like? Let's
go with like Lucid or Rivian or something like that, where these companies are really making.
So Rivian's a really interesting. By the way, just so you know, we're not going to get through almost anything we want to talk about.
We'll skip the other thing.
Rivian is a really interesting case because, I mean, Lucid is a less interesting case in the scenario. They're actually great compare and contrast. So Rivian came out and they debuted in 2018, and then COVID and everything really screwed up their launch, and they still somehow managed to get out 6 months within the promised timeline, which is very impressive. They had a plan, and in broad strokes, they could have launched either this year or they could have launched in 2021, and they showed it in 2018. So the idea was we need to get out the door, needs to leave now, right? We need to make money. We're burning money, so They got it out in 2018 or 2021. To do that, they used Bosch, and it's got to blow everyone's minds. Not dual motor, quad motor. It's got to be able to do everything in one vehicle. So to do that, you're using first generation everything, and you're using suppliers rather than doing it full vertical integration. The original plan always called for them building their own motors. The original plan called for a different electrical architecture. They didn't have time. They ran out of time. So they used Bosch motors as a supply agreement for the first ones. Now they're not using Bosch motors. They're using their in-house motors. This all came this year, Gen 2. Gen 1, Gen 2. Gen 1 used Bosch motors, 4-motor pack. It didn't have a heat pump. It had electrical architecture, which at the time was astounding. So let's just say a F-150 Lightning with all their suppliers has electrical architecture that has 70 ECUs. The original Rivian had 17. Gen 2 has a completely new wiring harness with multiple miles less wiring. It has 7. That wiring harness, the new one was 7 ECUs for the Gen 2. That's what Volkswagen just paid $5.8 billion to buy, and it's going to power every Volkswagen Audi group EV from Lamborghini down to Volkswagen including Scout in the coming years. The reason is because they've already dumped millions and billions of dollars into Car ID to try and basically do that. And they basically were like, we're going to need to spend another $10 billion to do this, or screw it. We'll just buy it from them for $5.8. They developed it very impressive. And so they did. So the Gen 2 Rivian is using dual tri or quad motors, all Rivian in-house enduro motors. Rivian designed them, built them, and they're doing, and then the inverter is built into it. Hang on. New electrical architecture.
You're proving my point. You're proving my point. All this happened in like 3 or 4 years.
Let me tell you. But I started this by saying Rivian and Lucid are interesting compare and contrast. Rivian is a bad example of everything I was saying because they wanted to get out the door and they got it out the door, right? The new Rivian that just came out, the Gen 2, it doesn't look that different. I've written about this. It's probably, yeah. I mean, the only way to tell this a different car is that front light bar is a little different. It's a little thinner and tapered. That's the only visual difference up front. The headlights are different, but you'll never know. I know. That's the only visual difference, and some different wheels. But underneath the skin, totally different. And that's probably good for, I mean, indefinitely. I mean, that's future-proofed right now. And future-proofed is not till you and I die, but like, this is not good for 5 or 10 years. This is the future right there. 7 ECUs. A Lightning has 70. This has 7. It's a zonal architecture.
What when you look Ford in the face and you go, why do you guys have 70 ECUs? What do they say?
Oh,
because that's insane. That's literally insane.
By the way, 7. I bet you S-Class has more than 70. Every car today, for the most part, has an ECU for dedicated functions, and they all don't talk to each other. So that's why over-the-air updates for a traditional automaker is so terrifying. Because you got to have a Bosch ECU, talk to a Continental ECU, and all these other things, right? No supplier wants to work together. Rivians are all designed in-house. Teslas are all designed in-house, and so you can design your own software for them.
Who's going to work on these things?
Who?
Yeah, who's going to want to work on it? Who's going to want to work?
Oh, dude, the indie mechanic. There's no future there.
That's sad, man.
There's no future there. Well, hang on. I mean, there's a long future, like in our lifetime still, for all the cars on the road today, right? Yeah. But like, historically speaking, for like ever, that's a dead-end future.
You would never tell your son to go be a mechanic. There's nothing there. There's no way for anybody to work on any of this.
I was a panel last year in 2023, and we took questions from the crowd. And they said, what's the best advice you give all of us? And I said, if you're in the business of exhaust and aftermarket stuff like that, you might want to rethink your business model. Turbos and exhaust systems, I'd be rethinking your business model right now. Like, there's no, like, you're not in trouble today, but that's a dead-end future. We're on a declining sales cycle for that for worldwide. Shell Oil will tell you that oil production peaked in 2017. They sell oil.
This started before even on combustion engines. This whole concept of like nobody working on anything is already there.
Too electrical.
I look at my turbo went out on my Golf R. Went to the dealer. It's
no way.
$4,000 or $5,000. $4,000 to fix the wastegate on the turbo.
So I remember
how am I and I looked at the DIY of how to do it. It's awful.
I remember
absolutely awful.
So there's a local shop here. You know them. I know them. And I remember when they came to a point where everyone, BMW, Audi, Mercedes, all these Lamborghini, they all use different software and diagnostic software and electrical architectures and all that stuff. And I remember where you to work on one of these things, you need to pay them to get their software. You need to pay to get access to their software so you diagnose all this stuff. And this shop realized the ROI to pay for one of these German automakers isn't going to pay out. So they only work on X Audis or Mercedes or whatever through X year. And there's only oil change is one thing. But when you need diagnosis suspension system for electrical stuff, or you need like air suspension or adaptive shocks or any of this stuff, you got to go to a dealer.
Well, and the dealers aren't working on anything older than like 10 years anyways. Correct. A lot of them will just turn you away. Sorry, we don't work on that. We don't support that.
They don't have mechanics that are old enough to know that stuff. If it's not based on the software, plug and play, we don't know.
So you're having this divergence then between, everybody that's working on this old shit and keeping it on the road and everything that's basically.
But you're also going to run into an NLA problem when you have parts. So much stuff for the 300ZX, that's 1999 garage, NLA.
But that's a specialty car though. Come on. That's a specialty car.
Nissan Altima's not.
That's
Camry's not.
Yeah, but you should be able to get parts for that for quite some time, wouldn't you think?
Depends on the part. You can go to muffler, like CarX and get a aftermarket muffler for. I mean, dude. By the way, Bora still sells a muffler from IZ, but Nissan doesn't. I found some of the last ones in the world. Overnighted parts from Japan, bro. They weren't overnighted. They were slow boated, but they did come from Japan.
So get to the point with this Lucid Air and how it's different than Rivian.
Lucid launched, and their launch literally was their future system. So they developed in-house inverters, battery packs, so the batteries and inverters and all that stuff in a Lucid, that's stuff in Formula E. They're powering Formula E. They launched with so Rivian doesn't have an 800 volt system still. And when I asked RJ Scaringe 4 weeks ago when I was in LA, you did the heat pump, you did the new electrical architecture, you did the motors and all that stuff, but there's no 800 volt system. You still only 220 volt kilowatts for max charge. Why aren't you at 350? Why don't we have an 800 volt system? That's one of the things. You have a big battery pack, one of the biggest. Why can't I charge it faster? And you said, I got a bucket of money. There's only so much money. You can only do so many things. I can only run so fast.
How much better than a Model S is this car?
Oh, they're not even. They're the same class in the theory of like.
This is what proves my point.
You mean a Lucid or a Lucid Air Sapphire, which is what you're looking at? Be really clear.
Just a Lucid in general.
Technologically speaking,
they're not even generally speaking. This is what I'm saying, though, Joel. This is my point: is that if you looked at a Model S that was probably one of the more staple cars as a luxury electric car for a little bit, and then Lucid comes out and drops this, it is such a leap. It's not like these little leaps, little steps that we used to have.
Fun fact. Peter Rollins, CEO of Lucid, founder and CEO, was chief of the Model S. And he and Elon had a falling out. Yep. And so he basically said, I'm going to go build a better car. It's faster. It's more efficient. It goes farther. It's hilarious.
Yeah, but this all happened within the space of years. That's my point, Joel, is that everything is happening very, very fast right now.
That Lucid,
we're putting the bricks on the wall like so freaking fast that it's like, it's just everything's getting
Lucid,
built.
You're not going to feel like you're not having a modern car in a decade, dude. That car goes 400 miles on a charge. It has
so then that leads me to my point of like, we're at the end of innovation. If you're buying that Lucid Air, which is the pinnacle of innovation right now, and saying that it's still going to be relevant in 10 years.
Says that if you bought a 1990 S-Class that by 2000, you felt like your car was a piece of garbage. That's what your argument is that right now.
No, my argument is that 1990 S-Class stands up to a 2000 S-Class in comparison. Whereas
define stands up. The original Model S, it still goes as far as it originally did. It still goes 200 and let's call it 50 miles instead of 290.
But you just got done telling me that the Lucid has just like leap years or more things and more technology, more battery, more power, more everything than a Model S. And then you compared a 2000 S-Class to a 90 S-Class. I'm saying the 90 S-Class and the 2000 S-Class, they're really not that much different. They're way closer than a Tesla and a Lucid are.
I'm not sure I agree with that because most people, everyone in America thinks you're not normal. Let's just caveat that, okay? Remember that? Everyone in America thinks we need to go 500 miles in a shot and tow 5,000 pounds at any given time, okay? The average F-150 owner uses their bed and tows like 7% of the time.
Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Don't try.
It doesn't matter, though.
It does matter.
It doesn't matter.
40 miles in a day, 5 miles in a shot, a 300-mile EV is going to get you there 99%
okay, you're
of
right.
the time.
You're right. But if the consumer wants what they want, it doesn't matter if you're right or not. It doesn't matter. That's why we're in this situation we're in now, where the whole market is tanked.
The Lucid had to go 400, 500 miles to prove that it can do whatever you need to do. The Tesla goes still 250, 300 miles, which is perfectly fine for what you need to do. Like,
yeah, for what you need to do and what you want to do or what you're perceived needing are completely different things.
Well, then you never bought the Model S in the first place because it didn't meet your perceived notions. But now the Lucid does.
Yeah, but my point is that it happens. Things are moving. My point is we're advancing rapidly year to year. This is a new technology.
I don't think it's year to year. I think it's every couple of years.
Okay. It wasn't that fast back in the day. And
consumers'
heads are spinning. Consumers' heads are spinning. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's good. They don't know what's not good. They don't know if something else is going to be coming out in 5 minutes. That'll be better. People don't know what's going on. They have no grasp of, if you were born in 1970 and you went to buy a car in 1992, you could walk on the lot and look at a car built in 1992 and you could understand a lot of what the salesman told you. That guy from 1970 goes to buy something now. The dude has no idea what's going on. Even the guy that went and bought a Tesla Model S when those first came out would go and look at a Lucid or a Rivian and have no idea what's going on.
I disagree with that.
He would go
disagree with that one. That you had me right up till there. The guy that bought an original Model S walks in and buys a Lucid Air.
Well, he was probably an early adopter, so he probably knew what was going on. But you understand my point, right? Is that things are moving so fast that the consumer doesn't understand. We had the same technology for 100 years that was built, stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked.
So what's your solution?
I don't have a solution. I'm just saying that this is just the way that it is. And this, I think, well, that's why we're in the situation that we're in now, where the entire industry is in like, nobody knows what's going on.
It's upheaval, but hang on. Once we get to let's just call it solid state or what, make up some Blue Buddy battery. Okay. You said solid state 2030. Okay. 2030. When is solid? But that's going to be in whatever electric G-Class is coming out, or it's going to be an Lexus. I think that'll be more like 2028, 2027, but keep going.
I don't think you're going to see solid state in a Camry in 2030.
2035.
Okay. 10 years. 10 years.
Is that a long time or not a long time? Can't decide with you now.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a pretty long time.
Here's the thing. Hang on.
Is it enough time?
Let's go to this. When this first came out, I was using a BlackBerry, a little plastic keyboard. First came out, this thing was crazy, right? She's pretty, right? Then it went to 3G. Then it went to we went from one point where it had like a 2.2 megapixel camera to like a 48 or whatever, right?
Incremental. Right? Very incremental.
Not the early years. The early years were pretty like we went.
I've had every single iPhone.
The original ones, we noticed speed differences. The original ones, we noticed huge improvements. Now, you don't need a new one of these every year. These are good for 5 years. The original ones were not good for 5 years. They said they were. They were not.
Yeah, but you don't need to use your iPhone to drive to work. You're not getting into your iPhone to drive to work.
This is the most important piece of technology in your life, and you know it. And if you tell me anything other, you're wrong. No.
Yeah, but I think a car is a different purchase. I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same.
The average consumer, think about this. Hang on. The average consumer, whether it's my friends who just bought a Volkswagen Atlas or the guy down the road that just bought a Honda Passport or a Pilot or a Ford Bronco.
You didn't try to talk them out of an Atlas, Feder?
They didn't ask.
Okay.
They didn't ask.
Anyway, continue.
Telluride. Kia. Who would have said that when we were kids? Anyway.
Nobody.
The point is that these are normal people. These are not you.
Okay, so we're in the first iPhone period right now. To use your comparison, we're in the first iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think we're in the 3G, 3GS. The original Tesla Model S, that was the original iPhone.
I just don't know that.
We got to get to the iPhone 4. We got to get to the iPhone 5. And then it's like really iterative and it doesn't matter for a decade. I'm telling you, we are in, if I bought a Rivian.
And that's 2030 for you.
If I bought a Rivian today, if I bought an R1S or an R1T with the seven modules and the everything else, the only thing missing on my list, the only two things, I really wish it had a volume knob, whatever. But like the only real thing that it's like, man, I wish this had this, is the 800-volt electrical architecture that exists in other cars today. To be clear, you can buy that in a Lucid, right? You can buy it in a Hyundai. That's the only thing that I would care that's not there. Otherwise, I'd be perfectly happy with that thing. Decade, by the way, I keep my cars about a decade. Our average car in our house, we keep about let's call it close to a decade.
So what you're telling me is that we're at the intersection of where innovation might be running out. Like, what else are we going to do? If you are okay,
next gen batteries, next gen electrical. I mean, there does get to a point where you question, like, so that Lucid Air Sapphire does 0-60 in 1.9 seconds on street tires with 5 people in it. I've done it. It hurts. It's painful. It is so fast. It is painful. Okay. And anybody with $250,000 can buy that car. You don't need any special training, any special license. You're on the same road as your wife and your kids. Okay.
Not good.
Absolutely insane.
What's a Rivian quad motor?
Hang on. When you ask me when we're at the end of innovation, because the innovation used to be F40 goes around the track this fast, and F50 goes this fast, and a 288 GTB goes this fast. When you say innovation, you got to define innovation, because we are at the point where If you go, we go so fast now. If you have money, it hurts. When are we getting like the human body can't?
Well, how much faster can you go? That's my point. Than 1.9 seconds.
How much faster can you go? How much faster do you need to go? You want to go?
Pretty soon we're talking about. Well, we're just going to be teleporting.
I mean, Elon's
how much faster
rockets on a car?
That's not innovation. That's stupidity.
Boy, let's not open Pandora's box.
Okay,
that guy.
1.9 seconds, 0 to 60.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to pursue more than that. Okay, it hurts
the body.
Okay, we're not getting any better than that. I guess my thought of innovation in automotive as we go on is going to be AI in automotive.
Oh, that's already happening.
I know.
Volkswagen GTI got it for 2025.
What does it do? What does the AI in the 2025 GTI get
Nothing you need it to do.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking at
the temperature. I think one of the things is like say I'm too hot and the car will turn down the temperature. Just push the button.
That's not AI.
That's what they say AI. Well, that's what the AI is doing in a car for you. What do you need to do?
Well, I don't know.
Right. You don't need AI for this.
I don't need it. Of course, we don't need any of this, Joel.
No, you don't need 5,000 pounds. I mean, I do.
I was fine with a W126 380 SE.
I was with W126 till the day I die.
Everybody else should be okay with that too. And I feel like this is just, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing and why we're spending.
We got way off topic on all of this.
Yeah, it's.
Let's talk about best car to buy for a minute.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the best car to buy. We can't say what it is.
Monday.
Because it comes out on Monday, and I'll have a link in the show notes. I'll update it as soon as I have a link, so you guys can see what the best car to buy is.
So there were 6 finalists. That we cut like 20 some cars, right? Originally from the list. Those are all the cut cars, to be clear. For one reason or another, they didn't make the market on time. They're too heavy. They're too slow. We're past the time where it's like who cares anymore?
Is that
right?
Is that bus going to say Volkswagen or what?
Say Volkswagen? No.
Yeah. Then they're fucked.
But it's really cool. Like, dude, it's cool.
Too big to fail? Volkswagen too big to fail?
Nobody's too big to fail.
Are you sure?
Nobody's too big to fail.
Chrysler was too big to fail.
Guess what? They're failing currently. Again.
What?
Again.
Yeah, of course. But
again. History.
I think Volkswagen's too big to fail. I don't think Germany will let Volkswagen go under.
I don't think it's going anywhere, but I think they're in for some hard times. So finalists. But hang on. Before we do this, real quick. Stand by. Okay. Not standing by. We'll do this, and then I want to get to a couple of Discord comments because there was one about Rivian and other things. So the finalists this year ended up being on Motor Authority. Acura ZDX. There's only one car with a tailpipe.
Yeah,
we all laughed about this because we were all like, this does not match market conditions of what people are buying. And I'll get to that.
That's not your job with this. Your job is not to
right. We don't match what you're buying. It's like, this is what's coming out. These are what we have to choose from.
Yep.
So ZDX, Hyundai Ioniq 5N, Mercedes-Benz AMG CLE 53, which is the only car with a tailpipe. It actually had 4. Well, actually 2, and then it had quads. It had 2 mufflers, whatever. Mercedes-Benz G-Class Electric, Porsche Macan EV, and the Rivian R1S, which, P.S., can we just comment on the photography of these? That was all done by personally me hanging out the back of a Hyundai Santa Fe hybrid on a racetrack strapped in with seatbelts. I'm very proud of how those photographs turned out. They look pretty darn good considering I paid for words, not photographs. I'm pretty impressed. I like
You did great. You did great.
So all these cars, in all their own ways, could be arguably winners. ZDX would be last on that list, in my opinion. And the reason I say that is it's the ugly duckling of that platform.
It is not a good looking vehicle.
It's not a sharp. I think Marty called it a hearse looking thing. It's not impressive in a lot of ways, but on a racetrack, it has lift off oversteer. And I'm telling you, dude, around the Atlanta Motorsports Park on turn 5, you go around that carousel, you lift off, and that front end and that rear end, it's cool. Like there was unexpected surprise and delight there for that. But the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, and we've had this discussion, it's got the fake shifting and the fake gear, the fake noise and all that stuff. You can turn all that crap off. This car is like $65,000, $60,000. and it's a true sports car that's electric. We had no problems when I was on Laguna Seca with battery temps or electric motors or thermals or range. When we were on we had no problem. I charged all these cars up to 100% before we went on the racetrack. We just weren't sure how long they'd last. You don't know. And so we had chargers at the racetrack, but it's like, are we going to make it through our whole day? Every one of those cars made it through the full day without having to be charged to get back on the racetrack. Every one of them. And the Hyundai Ioniq 5N charges so fast from the 800 volt system that they are at the launch at Laguna. They were talking about how they're going to install fast chargers at certain racetracks so that their owners can go, they can do their hot lap sessions, recharge to 80%, cool everything down with their chargers, and then go right back out. That's cool. This company wants to support this. That's awesome, right?
Yeah, Hyundai's doing some amazing things. They really
that
are.
feels like next generation thinking. So CLE 53, that was literally because we don't have a CLE 63 yet. Like, this is the hottest AMG of the CLE we can get yet, right? Turbo 6, but it's kind of cool. It has F1 technology where it's a two-stage turbo. The first part uses, before the exhaust gas spools up, and uses an electrical turbocharger, so you don't have as much lag while you wait for the first one to spool up. That's cool. And it makes good noises. Looks very pretty. G-Class electric, quad motors, does tank turn, 360s in one spot. Can't believe Mercedes says no problem, we can put it on the racetrack. That's a qualification. If you can't be put on the racetrack, you're out from our authority. And they were like, no problem. They tossed us the keys. Dude, this red box on the racetrack going around the carousel, hilarious. Just laughing. I'm laughing about it. It was slow. It didn't care.
I wish they wouldn't have rounded this truck up a little bit. You know, I like that it still has the flat style windshield.
You're wishing it did or didn't?
I'm wishing they didn't round it off so much in the front. It's a little more rounded off than the previous generation.
It's a visual. So it's not so much round. It's wider than the old one significantly. Not the electric, just all the new G-Class. They're significantly wider. They handle a lot better. So they're significantly wider. They're not necessarily more round. The roof line on this one is a little more aerodynamically, and then all the G-Classes get this, so they all share the same metal stampings. They are a little more rounded. I mean, it's not aerodynamic. It's a bread box. Like, going around the track, dude, it's a brick. But it's hilarious.
How much does it weigh? God, Jesus, that's huge.
That one that you're looking at right now, that I put on a racetrack, how much do you think that costs?
$138,000.
$192.
Oh my God. I'm speechless. Yeah, I don't even know what to say to that.
It's so cool. Duffer put the whole interior lighting to pink, and I got it, and I'm like, what's happening? Duffer's like, I was there. I'm like,
yes, yes, you are.
The Porsche Macan EV, this is cool. It's a cool car. It literally, dude, Kirk wrote a review. I think this headline was perfect. It just, it feels like the transition. It feels like the next generation Macan. Doesn't matter what's powering, it just feels like the next generation Macan. Packaging wise, electronic wise, it feels like the next generation Macan. The thing that bothers me about this car the most, the center console, and you're not gonna have a picture of this without like going digging, so don't worry about it. But the center console, the button, when you hit one of the buttons, the whole center console is one button. Fake, you're not looking because I'm using air quotes. Button. The whole center console is one piece, and the whole thing goes down. The whole center console piece. You push the button, and the whole thing goes ding, and the whole thing moves. And I'm like, no,
like a haptic thing or what?
Yes, but the whole thing, like I can watch the whole thing go down and up. Hate it.
Wow. Why can't we just have
share
buttons?
my screen? I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, hang on.
Right on the bottom there. Share your screen.
Hang on, I gotta get the photo. I took a photo of this. I hate it. It's awful. This is the worst thing about this car.
I'm just trying to imagine the whole center console moving every time you touch something.
Where do I share my screen?
Right on the bottom, it says share.
Presentation. Nope, that's not it. Not now. Screen. Allow. Window. Here we go. Sharing? Is it working?
Not yet.
It says stop. It's giving me the option to stop. There it goes.
There it goes.
See how that whole thing is one panel? That whole thing.
Yeah.
When you tap, if I tap auto, you see where that line is on the bottom below the volume knob? See the line on top? That's one piece. If you tap the auto thing, that entire piece, so you know it feels like it clicks, the whole piece goes down and up. Hate it.
Why? Why? Why
So
did they do this?
Because it's not a button, so it has to click somehow. So instead of doing a haptic thing, the whole thing moves with you. So the whole thing's a button. The entire panel is a button. Hate it.
Why can't we just have buttons?
This is actually a lot less money for them.
Well, of course it is.
Right. That's
of course
why.
it's a lot less money.
That's why. I hate that. That entire thing in that image, despise it. It's the worst part of the car.
And you have to interact with it on a daily basis.
Sure, anytime you want
all
to.
the time.
I like those toggles. Those toggles are great. The toggle for the temp or the
yeah, they look great. Little toggle switches.
The little knurl.
Little bit of knurling on them. They look nice.
And the volume knob, great placements right there, right in the little center, right. Those buttons, hate it.
It just reminds me of the entire
things. I just cringe.
I got into I was waiting for the horrible quote on my Golf R's turbo and got into a brand new GTI, and it's
not good. Not good.
Not quite the same, but it's still just like, I just want a button. The Volvo, however, my new Volvo, buttons everywhere. Really big fan of that.
Last one on the list is the Rivian R1S, and no one needs to hear how amazing it is. But here's what I will tell you. I went around the carousel I remember all my speeds. The carousel, we used 2 points on the racetrack, the front straight and the carousel apexes, right? That's how we measured every one of the cars, because then we each took notes on how fast we went around them. The G-Class was the slowest. I think it was hauling at 84 miles an hour in the Ioniq 5N and the Porsche Macan EV. The Rivian R1S, I think I was doing like 79, 80. That thing weighs 7,000 pounds. It has 800 some horsepower. It has a hydraulic kinetic system like a McLaren, so it pushes the other side up so it remains flat. And when I called Rivian and said, send this one for best car to buy, I said, I'm putting it on a racetrack. Don't send it on 20 all-terrains. Send me the 22s. Do not send me the all-terrain tires. You will flop over on the track. And those are just all season, mud, snow, Pirelli. They're similar to the tires that are on your Volvo from factory. And that thing can off-road with the best of them. That thing goes around a racetrack, and you can feel the rear motors torque vectoring, because there's 2 on that one. That's a tri-motor. You can feel the power.
Do you like the way that feels?
Yeah.
I mean, I felt torque vectoring on a Model 3 Performance.
I like feeling,
and it felt weird.
Shift.
It felt weird to me. Like I felt like
you around a corner. It's making me.
I know, but I wasn't doing it. Like I wasn't the one doing it with my foot.
Yeah,
and
but
that
you're
was
not the one
like,
doing it when you have a limited slip differential or a locking differential. That's not you. That's all mechanical stuff. Same thing.
Well, it is mechanical. A limited slip is.
This is mechanical. It's literally spinning up one of the motors faster.
I understand. It just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like a limited slip.
I don't like brake-based torque vectoring systems where I'm using the brake system to slow it. I like real. There's a difference between real torque vectoring and fake. Fake torque vectoring is you're using the brake and you're applying the brake to slow something or speed it up. This is real. You're spinning up one of those motors faster. That's cool. Pushing and pulling.
I don't want to feel. I want it to feel like my 911 feels.
Two other notes about this stuff I want to tell you. One, the guys at the racetrack were watching all of us, and we were the first ones to come to that racetrack and throw a bunch of EVs on it. And at the end of the day, the dude that's track control, I'm the only. I was in charge that day of putting all this together, right? So I had 2 radios, one for the team and one for race control, and I was controlling the racetrack and all that stuff. And race control guy comes up to me at the end of the day and he says, "I want you to know that Hyundai Ioniq 5N is really impressive." And I said, "Really?" He said, "You're putting Formula 3 racetrack time down." He's like, "I was loosely timing some of your laps." And he's like, "You were putting Formula 3 lap times down in that car."
Dang.
Consistently. 2, so I'm going to tell you a couple things, actually. I lied.
How long till the Hyundai stigma goes away? Are we there yet? Are we almost there? I feel like it's still a little bit there, but are we almost?
I think it's 50-50 with our generation. My kids don't know. Your kids won't know. 2, I slid around turn 6 with ease in both the Hyundai Ioniq 5N and the Macan EV. Like, I got off the track in the Macan EV, and Kirk was like, "Who do you think you are, Vaughn Gettin Jr.?" I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm just out here putting down some times. We're out here for fun." And also I have a photo. I tore apart all the tires on the Macan. The tread was peeling off in chunks, like sliced bacon off a pig. Like I was peeling it off. And then the last thing I'll tell you is, they're all cool cars. They're really all cool cars. I was there 2 weeks later for the Cadillac CT5V Blackwing launch, the updated car with the performance package. I hauled around the carousel in that car. How fast do you think I went in a CT5V with a supercharged V8 around that track? I know the answer to these questions. Carousel at the Apex. What do you think I hit? What do you think I was hauling around at?
So you were at 70 in the Rivian?
I was about 78 in the Rivian, but I was 84 in the Macan EV and the Ioniq 5N. And hang on, in the performance package car with F1, the Goodyear, the Michelin Pilot Sport Cup tires.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea.
Okay, Cup tires, CT5V Blackwing, Cup tires, 84 to 86 miles an hour. I was going as fast in the EVs, these two EVs, on street, Pirelli, Scorpion, mud.
Why?
All season.
What is happening that's allowing this to exist? Is it the computer controlling the motors and keeping you?
Yeah.
So what do you feel more accomplished doing? Didn't it feel better to drive the Blackwing like that than it did to have the nanny take you around the corner?
No. Hang on a second. Hang on. Kirk and I were going around the corner faster than some of the other guys. There's still driver there's still skill to this, right? Like how fast are you willing to go? How far can you push the car? How controlled can you keep? How smooth are you? Like all those things, right? Like it's not, there's electronic nanny. That CT5V Blackwing I did, I had the performance traction management software set to Sport 1 and Sport 2. And so it was kind of like, as you go around a corner, it was kind of kissing, right? Like the light wasn't flashing, but I could feel it kissing. And like, just you like that car has electronics too. No less electronics than any of these other cars. It had more tire and it had more engine. And I was going as fast with these other cars and it weighed less. Now, I will, by the way, the steering in the Hyundai and the Macan, pretty impressive. And the Macan's got the Macan doesn't use regen braking. The Hyundai Ioniq 5N is really interesting because it's got all these different modes: steering, suspension, the throttle. Like you can customize, and they've got buttons on the steering wheel. And so the engineers from South Korea, when they came for the launch at Laguna Seca, were telling me, they're like, we have it set so that you could do a button. So when you go out with your buddies on Sunday night to this road, you have your settings for that road. And then we're going to have a network where you could like upload your settings for different roads so people know what roads you think your great settings are for. And I'm like, that's an enthusiastly cool thing. That's a fun network you could build. That's awesome.
I still feel like some of the EV stuff is a little game genie.
Oh, 100%. 100%. There's some Gran Turismo built into this, dude.
Yeah. It's which I guess, I mean,
we're like well past time. Let's talk some of these Discord questions.
Okay,
I know there's a Rivian question. Okay. I know there's a Honda Nissan question. What do these guys want to know?
Let's start with Super Dave says, I'm curious about your take on the Honda merger.
Yep.
And I'm a little bit curious of how Renault feels about this.
So far, Renault's been they so far all positive. Like they're like okay with this.
How do you?
What we know?
Poor Japan. Honestly, Japan is getting shellacked. Their economy is bad. And I think it started out with back when they were having their boom. Japan was doing really, really good. The Japanese yen versus the dollar was serious. So I mean, it was commanding. Japan was doing so well, and we went and we renegotiated. And that's kind of where things started to go downhill for Japan, as their goods got too expensive in the United States, and it kind of kicked off like this domino effect that's led us to where we are today. It's tough to pin, what's going on with Honda and Nissan just on them, right? Has a lot to do with
it's larger than just going on that.
Yeah.
Our headline on Green Cardboards was Honda and Nissan merger planned by 2026 to fend off Tesla and Chinese EVs. And that sums it up in a headline.
Are they able to sell the Chinese EVs in Japan? Do you know? Are they selling them over there?
Sorry, I heard that question inverted, so it took me a second to hear what you said. I heard it the other way around. Can you sell it in China? Which there's laws on all that. I don't know if Chinese EVs are sold in Japan. The Renault thing is so far positive.
Okay.
I think to answer Super Dave's question, Nissan needs this. It's a lifeline. As far as I'm concerned, Nissan needs this. Honda, I think at the service level, people like kind of squint their eyes and like, do they need this? Like, is it necessary? And I saw a press conference happen where the media were asking the Honda CEO, like, what do you get out of this? And he was really struggling to get.
Is this pushed by the Japanese government?
I think there's a lot of things at play. So I think that there's a lot of pride, right? Failure is not an option in Japan. I also think that Honda does get certain things out of this. So Honda desperately wants trucks and SUVs. I mean, real trucks and SUVs, real things, right? Not like body on frame things. This gives that to them. Because Nissan sells the Frontier, they sold the Titan. They sell the Frontier, they sell body on frame SUVs in other countries that aren't here. So it does give them something they desire that they do not make. It also gives them a ton of capacity in terms of production and facilities. So like they have production plants here in America, they have production plants globally. That Honda is production constrained at the moment. Like it's an issue, and so this does give them access to that. It also, at a broader scale, gives them negotiating power with suppliers because now you're a larger footprint, right?
Is this what the Honda CEO was saying? These things? Is this what he was?
What I'm telling you.
Okay. What was he struggling with? What was his answer?
He didn't have a really great answer.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
That he wasn't prepped and ready with a.
Yeah. No. From what I saw, he didn't have a good answer at that moment in that press conference. And the way it works, everyone, all these enthusiasts are like, oh, I'm going to have a Honda, Nissan, GTR, NSX. It's like, that's not going to happen. So here's the deal. The way this is structured is that they finalize that it's going to possibly happen in the end of this month, January now. And then they're both public companies. They're traded on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. There's going to be a joint venture parent company that will be created that is owned by the both of them. And then the two separate companies, Honda and Nissan, will be owned by the parent company.
What are they going to name? What are the guesses on the naming of the parent company? It's got to be better than Stellantis, right?
Thinking about it. And then they'll delist from the Tokyo Stock Exchange, which is a necessary last step, July of 2026, and then this becomes like a real thing in August 2026. It's fast. This is a year and a half from now. This is going to happen.
So do you think Nissan continues to make cars? So you think Nissan survives as a brand?
Because of this.
Okay.
And I think that this gives them a better footprint for negotiation, for suppliers, supply chain, all that stuff. What happens?
There's a little bit of Mitsubishi in here, right?
Huh?
A little bit of Mitsubishi
this
going on in this.
This will also help them too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They offered Mitsubishi to join this as well. Yes.
Which is I think it's like $4 billion of the deal, which is like a micro amount compared to the rest, which just leads to you to understand how sad things are.
That's my take on that for Super Dave.
Okay.
I know there's a Rivian question in there. I don't know what else was in there.
We've got, I want Pablo the Porsche says, I have zero want for an EV except for the Rivian R3X. Will Rivian last long enough to make it into production? How I'd like you to answer this question is to come in from the standpoint of why does he think that they wouldn't? And why is the general perception that Rivian isn't going to make it? And do you think they will?
They're burning a lot of money. I think that even so at $86,000 or $80,000 when those trucks first came out, those are probably $150,000 trucks when they first came out. There's $20,000 in Bosch motors in the original trucks. Just motors.
We're talking their cost. Their cost is like way more than what
those Bosch motors are $5,000 a piece. That's $20,000 in motors. Then there's the battery. They were selling them for $80,000. They were taking a total bath, absolute bath. That was $100,000. If someone had paid $120,000 for that truck, it would have been a value still. From what you got, to be clear, right?
Right.
So even now they're enduro motors that are in house and everything, the electrical architecture and all that. They've stripped a lot of costs out of that by being able to fully form what they wanted to do now with the Gen 2. Doesn't make it a worse vehicle, to be clear. It just makes it more cost effective for them. I still think the $110,000 tri-motor loaded up Rivian I drove on a racetrack, $110,000 is a fair price for that car. That is every bit of a Land Rover vehicle in terms of luxury and performance. $110,000 is a fair price. You are not overpaying for a luxury vehicle in that segment for what you're getting, to be crystal clear, right? It's a fair price.
But they're still getting waxed at that price range.
I don't know. I think that the tables turn. I think that they can turn a profit in 2025. Okay. I think that they're able to turn it. But I think people see their burn rate and they don't understand economics of what it costs to be a car maker, and they don't understand. They just see a lot of money being burned. Here's what I'll tell you: you can't plan for COVID to happen for 2 years. You can't plan for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Trump or anyone to There's so many variables, right? Whether it's political or socioeconomic or health or any of these things that we can't control, right? And so they can't control those things either, and that affects their business. But what I will tell you is they have enough money, if all things hold the same, that they don't need a dime to get to 2026. 2026 is where they build the R2. The R2 is the size of a CRV, $45,000 to $65,000, and they turn a profit on day one on those vehicles. That matters because they have enough money to get there. All things all the same. Get that out the door. As long as you get out the door, you're turning money. Now you're making money. That's a high volume vehicle. That's not an 80,000 or 50,000 volume vehicle. That's a 200,000 volume vehicle. A lot of CRVs are sold, right? You buy one of those things for 45 grand, 50 grand. Compelling vehicle, frankly. It's a market segment. I mean, it's the size of a Model Y, size of a CRV.
The point is, you think they will. You think they're going to make it to 2025, 2026 where they can start selling things.
If all things hold the same and things that I can't predict, they have enough money to last 2026 in the bank.
All right, that leads me to my last question. Mitchell Denny, would love to hear, and this ties right in with what you just said. Would love to hear your opinion on the state of vehicle electrification, given the future administration, who is not friendly to EVs, and multiple companies backing out of their full EV dates.
This is a personal anger point for me. And we're not going to get all political on the podcast. It doesn't matter, but politics of it. But I grew up, and Chris and I were talking about this a little, by the way, and I didn't want to get into it because I was watching a movie with my kids, so I didn't. Chris gave me data that is accurate, but there was no context with this data. Look, climate change is a real thing. Science has proved it. And hang on, I saw your shoulder drop. I saw it.
It's because I had an itch. Yeah, I'm good. I'm listening.
So science started proving climate change is real. I know you sent me the data about the snow, but the snow comes differently than when you and I were kids. When you and I were kids, we got snow by Thanksgiving. There was a ton of snow on the ground here in Minnesota, and it stayed throughout. We get 2 to 5 blasts, 2 to 5 inch blasts throughout.
Yeah, but you were 3 feet tall, Feder.
2 to 5 inches is 2 to 5 inches. It doesn't matter.
But I thought about this too a lot, and this is like a year ago or 2 years ago. I was thinking about this. Like, man, the snow used to be awesome, and then I realized that I was just a little kid, and everything seemed bigger.
Hang on, let me finish. So talk about my kids. Just let me finish. So it used to come where by Thanksgiving we'd have real snow, and it would come and we'd have snow throughout. 2.5 inch here, 2 inch here, 5 inch here. But all the way through March, we'd have snow and it was cold. January was still the coldest month now, right? Those things didn't change. But we had snow throughout the winter. You could do your winter activities, you go ice fishing, all these things, right? I saw your graph about how snow totals overall, if you average it out, hasn't changed. But what has changed is how we get it. We currently are in January. There's no snow outside. We've got.
Is this anecdotal?
No.
Or is this?
We could find data if you want. There's two. Okay. We've had 2 blasts of snow and they both melted with rain. If you look at the data now, we get most of our snow in March. That's the snowiest month of the year now. Didn't used to be when you and I were kids. And it all comes as wet, heavy. It's different kind of snow. It's wet and it's heavy and it's thick and it clogs snowblowers and all that stuff, right? So we are still getting snow, but it's changed how it is. Ice fishing is tough now. The industry for skiing and ice fishing and all these sports are getting really, really whacked. So do you know Wes Seiler?
No.
He's another journalist. He used to write about cars and motorcycles. Now he writes for Outside Magazine and outside.com. And he writes about, he writes the intersection of like hunting and automotive and trucks and all and lifestyle hunting and all that stuff. Patagonia walking guy. It's interesting. He just in his Substack was writing using data, love data, about how basically 1.6 degrees Celsius we're climbing per year, and looking at the data and the heat and like how this is the second warmest year on record, blah, 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 blah. Like the oceans are warming up, all these things, right? So as someone who loves going boating and you love boating and loves lakes, my family loves winter because we love going skiing and skating and all these things. I know you don't. It kills me what's happening, right? So, and cars are not the only answer. Boats, planes, there's a million things that we've done to destroy the planet as human beings. We're like the worst thing for this actual planet. Like, it's not one thing. Cars are not the only solution. All of it is terrible.
They're like, to me, cars are kind of like not even top 3.
There's so many things.
I know, but everybody uses cars.
It's
I don't know why.
It's a lot easier to tackle a car than a cruise ship or an airplane. You start somewhere. Hang on. Doesn't matter. Look, doesn't matter. Not going to get into this. So to answer the original question, all of this is really painful for me because we're probably past fixing our planet. Like it's just the reality, right? Like my kids will be alive, your kids will be alive, my grandkids will probably be alive. But at some point it won't be inhabitable. Like we'll all die. The planet will keep spinning. It'll be here. We won't be.
I know. That's a stretch.
Long beyond all of us.
That's a stretch for me. Don't worry. Elon's taking us to Mars. We'll have somewhere to go.
And we just sent him to Mars and we stay here. Anyway, but the point is that this incoming administration is not friendly to electric cars. And what's going to happen, if we're just going to condense it into a couple sentences, is...
Doesn't he represent a population that isn't friendly to electric cars? I mean, I don't want to pin it directly on Trump and his administration. I would say that he represents a constituency that
depends who you're talking about, because he currently one of his best buddies, Elon Musk, I don't know if you know this, but he runs an electric car company. So
that doesn't answer my question, though. My point is, there's an entire constituency in this country that Trump represents.
I think there are Rivian and Tesla owners that voted for Trump.
I'm sure, but when you look, you cannot tell me that his constituency in general doesn't like EVs. It's not just, I'm just pointing out.
Demographically speaking, if we're going to be broad strokes, they don't. But here's the deal. What's going to happen is, to answer this guy's question, it is not going to be friendly to EVs, is my prediction. A lot of stuff's going to get rolled back. Things are going to happen. Automakers love producing V8s because, boy, we can make some money on those. But here's the thing. The rest of the world doesn't change. We're this part of the world, guys. The rest of the world, China's a decade ahead of us. Flat out, period. Doesn't matter how they did it. Doesn't matter how they're doing it. Doesn't matter anything else. The arguments is relevant.
We're talking about cars, right?
Doesn't even
matter.
We're
talking about EVs, cars.
Automotively speaking, China's a decade ahead of us, and Europe is half a decade ahead of us. Period. Flat, full stop. This is a sentence of fact. So what's going to happen is, we are not leaders anymore, by the way.
Not even
we are going to be falling back another decade. We are already a decade behind. We will now fall back a decade. It doesn't matter if you voted for Trump or Trump doesn't like EVs or you don't like EVs. Your opinion's irrelevant, and here's why. This is going to happen. This is the way the rest of the world's going. This is happening. When is the question here? And how far behind are we?
I've been saying that whether you like EVs or not. I've been saying that on the podcast for years. It doesn't matter.
So now all we're doing is going to be pushing the inevitable back further and falling as a country, lapping stock, further back another decade. And so that's just like, and as someone else, it's like, man, how stupid are we that we're already behind and we're going to just push ourselves back farther? It doesn't matter. America first, America last.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is going to happen. And it is turned into the EV thing. I don't really care, man. EVs, I don't care. You know,
can't wait if you go on a Rivian, you'd be like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Dude, I mashed the pedal on a quad motor Rivian. It was
so. By the way, that's 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Take a full second off that.
Yeah, life changing. I felt like I touched a hot stove. I pulled my foot off the throttle that fast. Yeah. Anyway, my point is, it has been turned into something that has gone beyond what makes sense and common sense at this point. It has become a polarizing, divisive issue where people just use it as a political football for
even
the
tribalism. CEOs of these companies, RJ Scaringe, Mary Barra from GM, they're all like, didn't see this happening. This is stupid. You should not be political. Doesn't matter whether your car is powered by tiny little itty bitty micro explosions or a battery. It doesn't matter. What can your car do? Does it do what you need to do? Does it fit your lifestyle? And is it what you want to drive? It doesn't matter what is under the tank.
People don't like. I know, but you have to understand.
Everything's got to be political now. Everything, medicine,
everything has to be,
science, all of it.
Sure, it's very tribal right now. Everything is. There's a lot of tribalism that goes on. But you still have to respect. I'm not saying you have to respect anybody's opinion, but you have to respect the fact that people are resistant to change no matter what it is.
People hate change.
People are slow. People can change for sure.
People hate change.
Oh yeah, people can change. They do not like change.
No.
This was a lot done
rapidly,
very fast, and
it wasn't led by us. And I think the problem.
Hold on. Let me finish. Shh, Joel. Let me finish.
Oh man, that came back full circle quick.
Yes, it did. Yeah, karma's a bitch. It happened in such a way where, remember, both sides were very tribal about this.
Yep.
Both sides made this political.
Yep.
When you looked at the EV movement was built on, we need to save the earth. We need to save the environment. That is not and was never the right approach.
I agree.
To make the transition. The right approach was to do it in such a way that was gradual and palatable to the economy. And what we've done and what happened was it got shoved down everybody's throats in such a way that was very political and very tribal. And you can't put that back into the box. It's already happened. So it was handled poorly. And that's why we're in the situation that we're in now. And we did it way too fast. We skipped over technologies that we should have had more plug-in hybrids. We should have had plug-in diesel hybrids. We should have had these cars that were
that's just automaker laziness, by the way. What's interesting to me is that political part's stupid, left and the right, all of this stuff. What's interesting to me is that America's got this interesting, weird issue. Kids get shot at school. We cry about it. We do these things, but nothing really happens, right? We obviously know it was like 136 degrees in the desert this year. Like, it's the hottest time it's ever been, right? The oceans are warming up. Things are dying and going extinct. Like, anybody that's not a moron can see that the climate's changing, right? And that the world's changing. So the question is, seemingly some people care. And my gut tells me, guy that votes for Trump, guy that votes for Kamala or Joe, doesn't really matter. You ask them, like, do you like that, like, it's hot or cold and it costs you more to heat or cool your house, or like the hurricanes come through and destroy your house in Florida, or any of these things? No one's going to say, yes, that's awesome. Nobody, right? So it's interesting to me that, like, the political parts of like, the idea that, okay, we're not going to change the cruise ships, the planes are clean, but we're not going to save the planet.
The economics of it is the button that should have been being pushed. The efficiency of it, the economics of it. This environmental stuff is too divisive. There's too much conflict. To make the environment cleaner, better. Because everybody's fine. You can't. Nobody has. That takes like not a lot of people. Statistically speaking, that's not a lot of people. It's not. Most people, until it affects their life. Hold on. Until it affects your life in a way that's tangible now.
That's a problem for me. I think it's selfish and stupid.
Okay, but that's the way that it is. That's the way it is.
Stupid.
Okay, fine. But the wrong approach was used. We know people are this way. We know they're this way. He's out. All right, man. It was good.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.